Okay. Well, courtesy of the vandals that are plaguing public level 2 charging infrastructure,
Oh, right.
I call this meeting of the Seattle Electric Vehicle Association to order. This is the oft-recognized as superior vandal-resistant charge point head, which you all know and love. But of course, they dip it in rubber after it is assembled, so it is completely non-serviceable. All the screws are now covered in an eighth of an inch of rubber. So I am buying serviceable replacement handles going forward for our charge point charging stations. Any other charge point hosts in here? Beware. Though they have the most reliable network, they tell you that their heads are not repairable. You need to buy another one for $1,400 for a replacement head. Or if you're really special, they'll give it to you for $800 wholesale. Though you can buy a replacement cable from another vendor for $140, and yes, the head is quite repairable. But they go purposely obsolete a few years after that when the 3G modems expire, and they tell you, no, you got to buy a new head because of that planned obsolescence. So networked public charging is a real mess. When last I checked, Seattle City Light had 12 of their DC fast chargers out of order due to copper theft and just some vandalism. It's like we're back to the Blink bankruptcy days when it may have been a frustrated EV driver who used the handle as a maul to beat the snot out of the control panel when the equipment would not respond to his demand for service.
After which it still didn't respond.
Yeah, so we're in a very interesting period on public charging infrastructure right now. I've got a bit of a rant on that later. Is this thing on? I have to go turn it up. But, as is our fine SEVA tradition, if we have any first-timers or first-in-a-long-timers, we invite you to stand, be recognized, and tell us a little bit about what brings you here. Oh, already called out in the corner.
I'm Leanna. I'm Larry's partner.
Oh, welcome. Any partner of Larry is welcome here.
There's not many. I have been in for a long time.
Okay. And I know we have some other newbies here. Mr. Steven.
I'm Steve Day. I'm interested in a conversion. I'm crazy. I guess born crazy, but I'd like to hear more.
What do you want to convert?
I'd like to convert a classic car. I like 40s.
We've been riding back and forth.
Yes.
Yes. Well, you were just conversing with our other Stephen, ex officio, former president, who knows classic truck conversions. As a matter of fact, his classic truck conversion has become a classic during its conversion. But since he's here, maybe we'll get an update on that project. All right. Any other new? Yes, sir.
Well, not new, but not a long time. I'm Paul. Sort of a wannabe, still looking, thinking of trying to find this Chevy
Bolt with a B. That is requisite when talking about General Motors EVs. Soon to be followed. Well, of course, they're not reviving the Bolt with a V, but I think we're going to get a truck called the Dolt with a D for dually pickup. Yeah. All right. Well,
Is Dolt a negative term?
yes, the Dolt is a negative term.
It does.
Would we like to jump into a legislative update? Vice President and Legislative Liaison Grace, who has been pestering Jake Fye for his RUC proposal.
Yes, that's kind of been the big issue this year as it came up late in the session, is the road usage charge got reintroduced this year. A little bit different version applying to both electric cars and gas cars and hybrids and everybody. Well, as you might expect, there was a lot of opposition to that. Took part in one of the public hearings that occurred last month, and most everybody was there to say, no, this is a bad idea. But they were representing trucking organizations, Tim Hyman saying, yeah, that's a bad idea. I mean, all kinds of folks. Not electric vehicles. You know, we were there to support it and say, yes, this is a good idea, but we want to see it massaged a little bit, because if you're going to apply it to gas cars too, you can't give them the same rate as electric cars. I mean, then who would buy an electric car anymore? Because you're looking at efficiency, and, you know, with a gas car, the gasoline tax encourages efficiency, encourages you to buy more fuel efficient vehicle or drive less or something. But with a road usage charge and everybody pays the same rate, that incentive goes away. Mark,
Did you
yes.
say that in front of that group?
I did.
And what kind of reaction did you get?
That was the House Transportation Committee.
Okay.
They didn't say anything.
Oh,
I
okay.
did ask if anybody had any questions about that idea, but no, I think the majority of them are really not interested in getting into the weeds like that, at
Yeah,
least not
okay.
yet.
All right.
So because there was so much opposition, I'm guessing that's why it didn't go anywhere yet. It still could come back up. We've passed the cutoff deadline for bills to get out of their house of origin. However, this is a budget year, and so the legislature will still be going to do the next biennial budget for the next 2 years. And if they deem that road usage charge as part of what they need to implement the budget, it's going to come back up again. So at this point, we are trying to get a meeting with Jake Fye, who is the chairman of the Transportation Committee, and introduce this bill, try to find out where he's coming from on this, and how we might be able to help improve the bill and make it more palatable and more fair, as well as being an incentive to be more efficient. So hopefully that will get somewhere, but in the meantime, we're also I've got a phone call scheduled with Rima Griffith from the Transportation Commission on Friday, so we can get a little bit more about what they put into their recommendations to the legislature and how we can help with that. Yeah, Stephen?
I haven't looked closely at it, but I'm curious what would be unfair to EVs about it, because wouldn't it just be no matter, like, it doesn't matter what your vehicle is run on, it's just how, based on weight and how many miles you drive?
Well, let me tell you, I talked to the lobbyist for the National Resources Defense Council, and she's really big on this, wanting to put in an efficiency scale, because otherwise, the person who's driving an IMEV is gonna be paying the same amount as the person who's driving the electric Hummer, for
No, I
instance.
won't.
You won't.
No.
I'd rather not
Be aware.
too, exactly.
And
And so-
what are the rules then? Because I thought, wouldn't it be based on weight and also
Well, that'd be the best.
mileage, or no?
No, and I will tell you why. It's because for all vehicles under 10,000 pounds gross weight, the state has figured out that they all contribute equally to road damage.
Okay.
And so they're not taking weight into account for anything under 10,000 pounds.
So then
And that
how is
includes all EVs that are out there right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then how is it unfair to EVs?
Well, not that it's unfair, but it's not fair for, it's not fair for efficiency reasons. That we want to encourage efficiency, which the current gas tax does. It encourages you to drive a more efficient vehicle or drive less, because otherwise you pay more. Well,
I would just say.
RUC
the
takes
other
that away.
benefits- But the other benefits of EVs and the prices of gas, I mean, I don't think we need it. I think the road usage thing seems good because it would make the EV fee sunset, right?
That's
And,
correct.
and then it would just be, we all pay, and so actually, since EVs weigh more because of the darn heavy batteries, it's probably, we're getting an okay deal, I don't know. Those are
Well,
my
but they're
thoughts.
taking the weight out of it, so that's fine. That doesn't make a
Yeah,
difference.
the one unfair aspect of it right now is the effective rate that most EVs are paying for a given distance compared to what an equivalent gas car paying gas tax is higher.
Right,
So they need to
exactly.
be equivalent, or one needs to go away and everybody. pays the
Exactly.
same
For
rate.
instance, if you're driving a Prius that gets like 50 miles a gallon, and you're driving 10,000 miles a year at about 50 cents a gallon, you're going to end up paying about $100 a year. Well, if you drive an EV, that same amount, you're going to pay $225 a year, even under the new RUC. You'll
But-
still pay that $225, that's the maximum rate.
Yeah,
And so
any
that's
EV
more than
driver
twice as much.
who does 9,000 miles a year would hit the maximum of 225
Right.
under the new RUC proposal.
And so that encourages people to not switch to EVs, but to continue driving their more efficient gas cars.
So with a Leaf and a Prius doing the same mileage, they don't pay equivalent?
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, okay, so that does sound unfair, so, yeah, what the heck?
I know.
The gassers would stay on gas tax for many more years.
Yeah.
Aren't they
So it wouldn't
EVs?
be true road usage for everybody.
Just the EVs at first.
Well, that's.
Well,
that's-
they're looking at doing both of them, but there's so much opposition to having the gas cars be included that that's not likely to happen.
Well, yeah, that's stupid.
Right. So if we were to do just electric vehicles, then we're gonna have to do something that's on par with efficient gas cars.
How about, so electric cars have an MPGe efficiency, why don't we just use that to calculate your
That's a great idea.
distance?
I've been trying to argue that same thing. I know, I'd love to see something like that brought into it. But there's a lot of arguments in different ways, so we just want to make sure that you know what's going on at the state level. Not much right now. The only bill that is still in play right now is the one that would put penalties in place for selling EV charging equipment that's been stolen. So if you kind of cut the cord on an EVSE, it's now going to be marked as such, and then anybody who buys that for scrap metal is going to be in big trouble.
As a former member of the scrap metal industry, I'll say that that bill is useless and toothless. The regulations are already in place, and it does not get sold as an intact piece of EV charging equipment. It gets sold as a bucket full of strip copper wire, identical to what was stolen from the construction site. So it doesn't matter. This bill is window dressing.
But it will put out the message that this is not acceptable and that you might get in trouble if you do this. And so it's mostly for public perception, absolutely. So that's good. We need to have that. We need to have something in place that is going to convince people you shouldn't be doing that. There is a hearing tomorrow on it. It's already gone through the Senate. It's in the House now. And so the House is doing a hearing on it. If you want to chime in, now would be a good time. And that's about it.
All right. Thank you, Vice President Grace. We will hear from Grace again during the car show scheduling session. Okay. Ryan brought us a Rivian, and he's going to talk a little bit about another project coming up, but we also have Larry with a technical presentation queued up. Would you like to go, sir?
Sure.
Thank you. All right. Larry last expounded upon the subject of cabin heating of a conversion, and it was just in time as I got my classic factory Ford Ranger EV running this winter, and that cabin heats up so fast with a pure resistive element heater rather than a water boiler that most of the newer EVs have. So instant defrost, and I love it. Thank you, Larry.
Okay, I'll try not to